this modern world, just occasionally something very special happens. The brilliance of diamonds by Gerard, a limousine by Park Ward, the delicacy of porcelain by Meissen. And now, in cigarettes, John Player Special, created by players to be the world's finest achievement in Virginia cigarettes. A shade longer, many shades more desirable than any other cigarette you've experienced. John Player Special in the jet black packs. So something very special still happens in this modern world.
$31.5, 32, 33, 35, 40 and 10 is 50 and 50 is a pound. At first, when you are given change in new money, it may sound rather odd. So if you're puzzled by 31.5, 32, 33, 35, 40 and 10 is 50 and 50 is a pound, think decimal. Now there are 100 new pence in a pound. Think decimal. That way you'll find shopping simple.
Welcome aboard, welcome aboard, welcome aboard. We said we'd take you in here for the beginning of episode 18. Episode 18, we'll get this out, we'll do that, we'll get this out. So just waiting for the truck to arrive to get this out of here. So we spin round, get the wheels on, we'll show you rolling out. So welcome aboard, we're on. A new part, a new episode, and we're going to get rolling. Got some exciting footage to end this episode with as well. A trip to the Cortina rally. We'll show you that later on. A couple of other things been happening too. Hold on while we show. Wiring harnesses. So just building a loom for Ruby now. I'm making some modifications to the loom to do with the quad headlamp main power feed cable. We're upping the amperage down on the power feed to the quad headlight conversion, just in case we ever go for higher rated bulbs, and also we're upping the power feed to the heater blower because we find that there's a volt drop on the heater blower and every volt counts when you're on the heaters. So notice that's a little design fault on Ford's behalf, this cable running just a little bit too thin. We get a volt drop there which is significant, 0.8 to a 1 volt drop on test. So we're borrowing bits from other looms and making our own hybrid loom. It'll still look original, but we're just making sure that we get everything right. Now GXL looms are different because they have an amp gauge connection or a volt drop meter. That's your volt drop meter plug. Measures the voltage difference between 2 points. There's one of the points there. See how Ford splice into the main alternator cable, and then following the yellow wire, that's the other end of the gauge, goes to the battery. So it's measuring that volt drop across those 2 points, and it's actually a microvolt meter, the amp gauge, which reads as amps. It's just a different way of doing it, a shunt gauge. So that's how your amp meter is done. It's not done in series as some amp gauges are. Ford did it by doing it this way. That's your amp gauge plug. As I say, they solder it into the loom here. Anyway, we don't need to alter that, but we are using this thicker cable. We're going to see the normal cable there to the alternator, and this is some beefier cable, which interestingly was fitted on some looms. So some looms are higher rated than others. I noticed they might have changed it later on. So a little bit of loom work, stripping, cutting, and just making the right GXL loom for me. And then while we're waiting for the truck to roll up, keeping our hands full. Okay, loom laid out on the floor, just stripped back now, and we're adding the extra cables in, or rather we're upgrading the cable from the alternator plug. There's your alternator plug at the top. So on the later looms they decided, or maybe different spec cars, to put the beefier cable in to the alternator to the battery. So we've already got a cable going into the harness now up to the battery point. There's your battery point there, so that's from your battery, it comes down the loom, that's going in the bay there, then it loops across straight to the alternator plug. It then joins and supplies across the pins on the alternator out to a second output. So did you know that if your alternator plug isn't connected, you actually lose some of the power to the car? I think you lose the power to the headlight feed and a few other things too. Anyway, we're joining up there. I've got an extra feed in to run the quad headlights. That's there, that's when we get our quad headlamp toggle relay fitted, so that's getting ready as well. Our frost wire is in because that's picking up in the grill area. This comes out in the grill, so our frost sensor cable we're fitted in. It comes out through the amp gauge multi-plug through the grommet into the bulkhead, so it's neat. Once that's wrapped, you won't know that extra cables are in. There's some security cables also in. Following the cable up, what we got, so you've got your bulkhead connection there, standard. That's going out to the alternator. We're going to be cutting and splicing and soldering in here. Got a big soldering iron ready. Going up the top here, you've got your GXL rev counter hookup points. It really is just a loop that picks up off the points and sends a signal down a single green to the tacho. So you actually have two wires just linked into that join. This loom that I've got is a hybrid. It's different parts of looms. I didn't have a loom for the car. It didn't come with one, so I've had to build one up out of different looms. Now I had I think it was a GXL auto loom which had the starter motor wires going in a different place. Various looms which I've built. I had a pattern one to copy off. Took measurements off Swampy as well, so I was able to get all the cable run lengths correct. So just building that up. For the main job at the moment is to get the alternator cable done. Now this one's supplied with a very long lead, simply because I think the alternator on this loom must have been on the other side of the bay. This has got to be cut down, it's too long. I've just measured up off my other car and I've got the right length of this cable. So we've got to do a join up here, which we're going to use a decent iron. This one is, I think, well, it's actually not written on it. It's a beefy iron though. It's got to be a 40 watt. So we'll be cutting in here now and making a connection. We just put some temporary holding tape on it to keep things neat while we're working. And then we just carry on with the system. There's a fuse here. I've just taped it up to remind me to fit it. That's to protect the headlamp relay. If a fault occurs in the headlamp relay, you look at this design here, here's your headlamp relay there. You actually get a short on that. It's a direct short from the battery, which can melt the loom. So it's a good idea to fit a fuse in there. If you're building your car loom up from scratch like this, you may as well fit that. That's going to fit under the wing rail. You're not going to see it, so you're just going to see this nice waterproof point. That will cover protection to the fuse relay. See that? There's the run to it. Sorry, that's not that one, it's that one there. And that one comes across and it links in up into the feed points. So if that was the short, you've actually got direct live to earth shorts. I didn't like that. In terms of your current regulator, your amp gauge is a volt drop, as I explained, and that picks it the right place there, and then onto the battery terminal there. So that yellow wire, if you ever wonder what it was, that is your volt drop ammeter point. Curiously, and I think this is original, a big thick nice cable then goes down to a very thin cable. Now whilst I can understand that's going to create a shunt, it'd seem that you're going to lose a lot of power in that little tiny cable there, so I need to investigate as to why that's happened and why that's fitted, because I would have thought you've got a nice thick feed and then this would get warm. Now I know for doing shunt meters you have to have a sort of drop area, and that might be what that's for, so that can measure it. I'm not sure, but I'm going to check that. So just on with building up the loom. Going to get the soldering iron out. That's heated up and ready to go, so we're going to make some cuts and some solder joins here. The task I'm going to do is just simply extend the monster cable so it gets right to the alternator plug. So a simple join first, we'll solder and heat shrink that one. So let me get a knife now, cut back, trim, and I'm going to go get my heat shrink stuff. I'm going to make a heat shrink join there, then get the right length. Then we'll be dissecting the alternator plug, pulling out the pins and soldering this onto the back of the alternator plug. I'll show you how we do that. Right, that's stripped back, heat shrink just slid on there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to push these together into each other like that, and then just bring it together. It gets better surface area and keeps it flush. So I'm going to splice them in like that, push that into there, gets better surface area and just keeps that in a nice you can stack them side by side, but I'm going to push this in like that and get the solder on. Gotta have a decent iron to do this. Got no chance for a good strong iron, good high wattage iron. I just won't get that, just won't get the heat. Okay, soldered up and just sliding over the heat shrink now. Okay, feed for the headlamps going in. That's the quad headlamp conversion pickup feed wire going in. Okay, and now up to the front to do the plugs for the alternator. So we've just popped out the alternator plugs out the block connector there. Leaves us with these wires to break down. And we get that plug on the end of that one on, the blue one on. Just uncrimped them, crimp that back over there with solder on now, and then back into the plug. Right, that's the plug all reassembled, cover back on, wires nicely on the back of the plug there, and coming down neat. So we've now got the correct length alternator hookup point for this loom, and we're all nicely joined and spliced in with our uprated cable there, you see. Going straight down to the battery, and then our extra pickup feed for the quad lamps. Those are wiped the surplus now, so we're done there. That bit of it's done. We can now work on the coil wires. Here's our coil wires. They've got to be extended a little bit, and then just start to pack up bits of the loom. We'll give it a test before we finally do the Ford wire wrap on it. Oh, I've got to splice in this fuse as well, so we'll do that in a sec. Get that into there nicely, and that'll hide under, just under the wing runner, tucked away. You won't see it. If you ever get a fault with your relay, you should just take that out. I'll put a 30 amp in that one. So that's that, and then we'll start on that headlamp toggle relay, and we'll build that little mini loom ready for that. Get some juice onto this, and we're going to do a full system test soon while waiting for the car. So wiring harness build up on the floor. It's easier. It's warm weather at the moment. We're into June and it's a bit of a heat wave going on. So just on the garage floor, nice and cool for a change. It's the opposite way around. You normally want a warm floor. It's now a cool floor. So we can work just a little bit outside. Why not take advantage of the nice weather while you're building your loom? So a lovely loom on the way. It'll be nice and neat once it's all wrapped. That's not loom tape, that's just to hold it together. I'll be putting some Tessa fabric paint tape on this just to keep it factory, even though it's wrapped up, but we'll Tessa these up soon. Toothbrush on them to get them clean, the new old stock, but we'll clean them up. Little wiring loom tag snapped, we'll have to find one of them and retie that on. And then we're getting close on the loom then. We'll put 12 volts on it, check all the systems as we did on Swampy. So again, between jobs, more wire. Just a tip on wire wrapping. We actually could, if we wanted, loom wrap this up now. Because what you do when you're doing your run, your wiring loom, you wrap each branch. So that's a branch, so that gets loom wrapped, and then you make a T shape here, and that's already done. So any pieces that are branching off, you wrap them first, and then when you've done your trunk, you do your trunk last, trunk being the main run, and then it covers all these. Otherwise you've got to stop here, then try and get up there, then come back. So you wrap your branch, and then you wrap the trunk later on. So just letting you know, a little tip. So if I wanted to, I could loom wrap that up, and then the branches are done. And again, for the wiper motor, there's nothing to do to the wiper motor, so that could be put back in. The reason I didn't do it just yet is because we've got runs coming on the branch, which on the trunk, which the branch would have got in the way of. So it's best that you get all your wires completely in before you do any wrapping. I might have one more wire going here. Just gonna need to check my diagrams to do with the systems, so I'm not going to do anything just yet, but bear it in mind when we're wrapping. I'll show you that later on when we do a loom wrap. Okay, right, we're in the bay making sure that our super duper loom goes and does what it should. So we're just checking the bulkhead connectors there, line them up to make sure our distances are right. So starting point to the bulkhead, alternator down the side, last tang there. So the alternator's about here, so that's fine, plenty there. That runs straight alright for the headlights, and then across here, wiper motor, that's alright, we've not changed that. So there's a bit of extending to do on the coil wires, again, different loom. Starter motor wires, they're okay. Battery hookup point's going to work. So there's plenty of length on that. I think that's it. So I'm happy. We just need to extend some cables here. Just wanted to make sure everything was in the right place. Our ballast wire there is short, but I think you can get a longer ballast wire. That seems a short ballast wire to me. I've seen longer ones. That needs to be getting at least around this area where the coil goes. So a short ballast wire pickup at the moment. We need to just check there's a longer one available. There's a pickup point for the ballast wire just on the end of the coil. Pickup feed here, that's going to be cut down. That's a long cable, that's got to come out about there. So just in the bay, mocking up the loom. Alright, we're right the right way around and the jig's on, as you can see. Just waiting now for the call from the transport, and then we'll roll this out. I just noticed there's 3 more welds to put in, some plugs to go in. I better get them in quick before we roll out. Okay, other than that, we're ready. I'm going to do a bit more soldering, get this loom in the right place so I know what I'm up against. Right, better get the soldering iron. This is all alright. Okay, there's the alternator branch done and wrapped. So we went down, start at the top, some duct tape in to start, and then go back over yourself, holding the tape at an angle, sharp angle, sort of like that way, wrapping around, and then finish off at this end. There's the tape just to stop it unwinding. You do use glue on the high-vis stuff, but if this is getting covered, you don't need to use the glue. But when we finish on the main wrap, we use an epoxy glue, a spray glue, and that's how it was finished at the factory. So that's one branch, then another branch for the wiper. Down we go to there. So 2 of those branches done. And we're just working on wrapping. That's a nice clean plug, it's new old stock, so we're good there, tidy. All the looms laid out with our various branches off. This power battery feed is correct because I've looked on a new old stock loom. Incidentally, the new old stock loom is no good for this car, but that's how it's done. That's a Ford hookup, which is a heat-proof cable there, I've noticed. That's a heat-proof. It's not. It's a rubberized finish to it. It's not your normal PV sheave. And I think there's some kind of shunt resistor. This. I think this is deliberate. You can see where the Ford Loom tape finished, so we're going to wrap from that point backwards. We'll clean this up now, get it nice and clean, then wrap on. That's the way it goes. That's just the way that it's done to get the shunt. It must be. The shunt resistors for the ammeter, as I said earlier, that yellow wire detects the voltage drop between those 2 points and also elsewhere on the loom, so you get a potential difference. Your amp gauge is actually a micro voltmeter. It's not actually an amp gauge, although it gives you indication of amps, but it's actually a voltmeter. So I'm going to wrap from there all the way down on this branch next. And just a reminder, we mustn't forget to fit that inline fuse there down in this part of the harness. Whilst we've got the chance, while we've got the harness apart, that's the fuse that feeds the headlamp relay, because it's, as I said, there's your headlamp relay socket. That goes straight to the batteries. There's no fuse at all on that wire. It's a direct feed. Now, the output of the relay is fused, so your headlamps, if they short, you're alright because you pop the fuse on the relay. The problem occurs if the relay fails. It hasn't got its own protection circuit. Now, you would think a relay wouldn't need an inline fuse, but I'll show you what happens, or what can happen. I've seen this happen once. Maybe it's a rare occurrence, but even so, the way round it would be to make sure your relay's alright, I suppose. This one, just off an old card, and it could be off anything I've taken off in the past. So we open this one up, some little tags there which you just prise open. On the aluminium casing ones, or the steel, the tin cased ones, you've got to bend the tags permanently. Plastic one's a bit of flex in it, so lid off on the relay. Already we see that it's rusted up. So that's the headlight relay. Let's just talk you through how it actually works and what it's all about. I'll look underneath at the wires first. That blue wire, now I might get these the wrong way around. I think yellow's high beam and I think blue and white is the dip, but that could be the opposite way. But the outputs are on those pins there offset, so that one here, my little finger's touching it, that's either a dip or a high beam output, and that top one's again either a dip or high beam output. The input to the relay, to the feed, is on that red. That's the main feed going in, it's unfused. Then we've got an earth there, that's for the coils, that's for the relay coils to get their earth so that they can activate. And then the remaining 2 wires, a high beam and dip, coming off your stalk. Now you could just get your stalk to connect straight to the lights and you don't have a relay, but what happens is the stalk burns out. You've got a lot of current going through the contacts of your column stalk and it would eventually melt and burn out. Some cars are made that way, but Ford did it this way, which is the better way to do it. So you flip your high beam on and this wire then becomes live, okay, which then pulls this relay down, which connects that big red wire to one of these, and all it does is they just activate your dip and your high beam lights. That's all they do. It's just a relay and it just transmits the power directly to your lights when you energize one of those 2 coils there. It's just, that's effectively, me doing that is effectively you flashing the stalk or turning on your light switch. Turn on your light switch, bang, that one goes down. Flick your high beam, bang, that one goes down. Just saves wear and tear on the switches. It makes all the wear and tear happen in this box. That's all it does. Okay, so what happens eventually, if it's a faulty one, this rusts through, then this metal part breaks off. I've only seen it happen once, I must admit. That comes off. Oh, it's gone. There you go. So there you go. Exactly what I told you about. And I only just touched that with my finger. There you go. Complete proof. Right before your eyes. And that metal thing breaks off. Those 2 rivets break off. See? I'm hoping the camera's focusing on this. Then that lands, or it can land, you might be lucky, onto those contacts inside the relay, see? And what happens is then, if that lands on them contacts and you're unlucky, you land across the earth and the main red feed, which is unfused. So what happens is the whole relay burns out and melts that wiring harness there. So the loom will then begin to melt all the way down straight to your battery until possibly it catches fire. And I think there are recorded incidents of this. I remember reading an auto data sheet on the, I think it was something to do with insurance. It was a document that I found scrabbling around in books, and it'd give it as electrical fire in the harness. Now that possibly this happened, and the Cortina caught fire. So look what happens, driving along, that's going to rattle straight across your contacts, bang, and your whole thing melts down, and that's the fault. And that's why I fit the inline fuse to that main power feed. The same thing can also happen if you overload the relays, because what happens then is you burn this copper strip out, it melts, and that can also break the rivets when that gets red hot. If you're messing with your lights and doing conversions without doing the proper fusing, you can melt that by putting too much current through it. Okay, the fuse should pop, but someone might have bypassed the fuse. You might have put an overrated fuse in it, and this will get red hot, either fused there or pop off. But that one, as you can see, rusted off. Now that relay could have still been working even though that was about to break. So it doesn't mean that if your relay's working that you're not rusted up inside. It would still go, and then as it activates it'll finally ping itself off, and then you're in trouble because that's shorting out. So that is why few people ask me what's the point of doing that. Well, that's exactly it. We rest our case with that. Faulty relays and wiring harness problems. Now I did have it happen on Swampy, but not like that. I had it where my metal tags were on the tin box. This is the plastic box. They weren't quite pressed back in when I'd serviced the relay, because I cleaned all this up, and my relay fell out of its holder and sparked on the engine bay. It was a close escape, but that's when I noticed it wasn't fused, because I expected to have popped the fuse when it did that, but it didn't. It was a bloody big spark. So that was what drew me attention to it. That, and also later on, once investigating, finding these kind of faults too. So time to fit that fuse now. I'll show you where it goes. Okay, just a quick bulletin style video to help anybody to check out their Ford Cortina relay, and think XL, GXL, but possibly earlier models. Certainly the XL and GXL have got this relay fitted. This is your headlamp relay, which fits under your wing runner in the engine bay. Most of the time it's located on the driver's side in the engine bay. So it's this one's badged up as Fomoco. They're typically done by Bosch. This could be a Bosch unit as well. What happens, the problem with this relay is that it can cause a loom meltdown, and even worse, an engine bay fire. Sounds dramatic, but it's actually not. This is a quick video just to talk you through the problem so that you can inspect your system and modify it accordingly. What it is, there's two types, plastic bodied relay, and there's also a metal body, as tin bodied relay. Two types, both exactly the same in the way that they work. I'm going to take the lid off this one now to show you the problem. Okay, so lid off, you just pop the tangs on the bottom for the plastic, and you've got to bend the tangs for the metal. But I'd recommend, if you do take your relay apart, that you really do make sure that you put your tangs back in, or else you could actually end up creating a fault that wasn't going to be happening in the first place. You'll be worse off. So if you are taking it apart, then you've got to make sure that you clamp it back up properly. You could even go as far as say you could glue it back in. But that aside, here's the fault. This one's rusted out. Okay, now this happens when I took it apart earlier, so I can't actually demo it live, although there is the clip of that happening, so I might insert that clip in. So you'll see a clip which is just added on at the end of the film to show you what happened. This is the contacting what you call a well, it's not actually a bus bar, it's just basically a contacting leaf. You can see that little dimple on it. It's what makes the contact there. Normally a silver plated disc which makes the electrical contact, stops flashing so it doesn't burn out. That's riveted to the top of the relay. What happens, the rust eats through the rivets. That's if your relay is damaged, of course. This is only if you get water ingress this can happen, I would have thought. Rust through the rivets, then that falls off, or can fall off, or I suppose it inevitably will fall off once it's rusted off. And then there's the problem. If it lands just here, which it could well do, especially if you go over a bump, that will rattle into position until it lands on the live pin and the earth pin of the relay. The earth pin on the relay is used to earth the coils of the relays. The live pin's used to switch a big heavy duty feed to your headlights. It's looking like a 25 amp gauge cable, at least capable of carrying 25 amps. That red cable you see, we'll touch it now, that's the live feed into the relay. That's coming out and it's exposed on one of these pins here, just there, and that falls off and shorts live to neutral, or live to earth, live to your body. That will then weld itself in place because there'll be a lot of current there and it'll lock on, and that'll be it, you'll be off. So what you'll have then is direct short on this cable. Now you may think, well, it's going to take a fuse out somewhere, but it doesn't. The problem is I've stripped a wiring harness back because I'm rebuilding a harness. That's how this was drawn to my attention, and it actually is, this is a Ford fitting, this isn't what I've done. That's actually Ford's work there. The wire's coming straight into the main cable feed and then straight to the battery, so there is no fuse on that cable run all the way up till it makes another join and it's straight out onto the battery. So what you've got effectively is a direct link to the battery, no fuse on there. So that going across, over time your relay could be breaking down, who knows what's out there, but that's dangerous. That's just going to short the loom. Best possible outcome is your loom will just melt, but it'll take a lot to burn through that cable. It's just going to carry on going. It's going to be glowing red hot, to be fair. There's nothing going to give. I couldn't see anything going there. That's just going to be direct short, and then that would take out your loom, even possibly burn the car. It's unlikely that it would flash over, but it could. But you'll certainly lose your wiring harness. So what you need to do, you don't necessarily have to take the relay apart. If you're worried about those tangs, then just fit a fuse in line on this cable. Now luckily there's enough wire to do it. If you could unscrew your relay, take the relay out, disconnect your battery, because this is straight to it, so best doing this with your battery live disconnected. Snip this, then fit an inline fuse holder on this red wire, and that'll cure you. That's all you got to do. Just get an inline fuse in there, something like this. Here's one I'm fitting further up the loom. I'm doing it but further up the loom, so that's the one I'm about to install in this loom that I'm building. 30 amp fuse is what you want. You can get these that come already with a 30 amp, or just buy the waterproof connector. This is a waterproof cap that pops on it. Put that in line. So I put it there, but you put it on here. Get an auto electrician to do it if you're not confident, but that fuse will just squeeze in there. It can be cut a bit tight. If I was doing this, I'd cut, solder and heat shrink on. If you're asking an auto electrician to do it, then ask them could they heat shrink so it looks neat. So cut there, solder, heat shrink over, and fit that fuse. And if this does fail, it's just going to pop the fuse. Because I'm worried about suggesting this, then people taking the relays apart and not bending the tags down, because if that happened and you don't bend your tags down, your relay is going to fall out of its casing, and then it's going to short for sure on the engine bay, so you'd end up creating the fault that you were checking for. So please, if you are doing this, the relay must be secure in its casing. If you're really worried, you could always zip tie it to the casing so it doesn't pop out, but that's what had happened. If this fell out now as it was and it wasn't damaged and it lands on the engine bay, then you've got another same fault recreated by just you checking it. It'd be horrible if that happened. So please make sure that you secure your relay in. So that's the end of that tech bulletin. That's one to watch out for on your headlight relay. Hope you find that useful. If you do find that your relay was on its way out, let me know. It'd be handy to see how many out there are on the way out or about to fail or rusted up. I've seen two now. Both the ones I've taken apart, both very similar. Although the other one I didn't snap off, but it was on its way. So I'll be checking. Swampy's actually already fused. Actually, to be fair, my green car and my other two cars probably won't have it. So I'll be off doing those myself. Just letting you know. Hope you find that useful. As I say, if you do find your relay was on its way, let me know. It'd be handy to track how many of these are out there about to fail, because talking about a 40-year-old plus piece of kit, so I've seen a lot of action. Okay, that's the end of that tech bulletin. Hope you find it useful, and a little clip just coming up showing when that snapped. Over and out for now. Headlight testing next. Just getting them 4 quad lamp units lined up. These aren't the final units, these are just some stock units that we had, which were nice. With a slight modification on them for the quad high beam conversion. Now, we know I'm my relay short, because we know about that damaged relay. That harness is just tested out good on the rig. We just had power to everything, got the alternator hooked up, dash clocks, and we just booted that loom up, and that came up good. So now we're just cleaning the loom. So we've got just some mild detergent, in our case fairy liquid. We've got Sean back doing a little bit of cleaning up on the harness. We like to get all that grime off them harnesses leads, and there's some harness repairs where it's just started to break up, so we'll just wrap that. We'll go over that with Ford tape. This just holds it in place for now. So toothbrush and fairy liquid, that's all. Just a mild solution to get the loom clean. This part doesn't need rewrapping. There's no point wasting loom tape. There's some areas to repair, but if it comes up clean, we're not going to be rewrapping it. It's pointless. It's going to look clean anyway. Just cleaning up connectors here and making sure it's all tidy. There's a little bit more toothbrushing to do to get all these harness points grease free. If we find the fairy doesn't lift some of this, I'll get some thinners, just very carefully, because the thinners could attack the loom tape, so we'll play that by ear. There's some stickers we've got to replace, they're worn out. We would like to get them on. I've got some of them being made. Again, you don't see them, but you know we like them to be there. So loom clean up at the moment, and it's been tested electrically, so it's passed the amp gauge work, so we know the shunt resistor's working in the right place. And then I'm just going to switch now to building a toggle relay harness, mini harness. That's for the quad headlight, so I'll build that now I know which wire's what on the loom. I'll leave Sean doing his clean up there. Just giving it a bake on the old relay. We've got a new old stock relay, some slight tarnishing on it. I'll have to give it a polish down and a little bit of paint prep just to get the grease off, and a touch of our old friendly silver effect paint, which doesn't matter if it dulls down because that's the finish on the relay, so we might even give it a lacquer. I'll just refurb our new old stock relay, so we've got a good one to go in. Let's give it a little bake. It's 10 minutes baking there. Give about the right finish that, I think. Okay, carrying on with the wiring test now. I'm going to test the amp gauge and make sure the shunt resistor's working in the right place. We've got the amp gauge wired in, we've got the fuel and the temperature wired up. Some temporary clocks there, just some out of the box, scrap clocks. Looks like they've got their own faults. Those clocks look rusty, so we'll just be checking them. It's just systems check, I suppose, loom check. I found another relay that works just to test this. I've got a silver one actually as well, but for now we just use this relay for a test setup, and that'll test. And there's our toggle. Well, it's not a toggle actually. This is just the high beam. It is a toggle, if you will. It works in conjunction with this relay. All that happens when you flip your dip beam, one relay goes off and the other one goes on. When the other one goes on, it puts a live to this coil, which then flips my added live feed, which just puts high beams on the dip units. So you can do it with a toggle over relay, but because Ford had this relay where one flips off and the other flips on when you do your dip, that performs the toggle and then just piggybacks. This just piggybacks over it with another set of contacts there. I have noticed as well, you learn every single day, but there's two outputs here which adjust the actual relay feed wires doubled up for some reason. Looked on my green car and there's a unit that looks like a fuse, but I don't think it is. I think it's a diode, and it looks like they put a diode across these two so that when you do your high beam, it keeps the dip beam on. When you do your high beam, the diode stops the dip beam from coming on. So high beam would only flash the outer two lights, dip beam would keep the dip on and the outer beam on. Remove that and your lights will toggle across. So because we're using this, we don't need the diode to be in those two wires, and we can have our lights, because this will take over and flip the lights across. If you had that diode in, I'd have higher and dip beam filaments lit at the same time, which I don't want. So I don't have that diode in there. I think it's a diode anyway. I haven't opened it up. It looks like a fuse, but it's not. I haven't got one here to show you, but I only just learnt that today, that'll be what that's for. So that because when you drop your high beam down, one swaps across to the other. For high beam, I suppose you could still have your driving lights on, and that relay then keeps that dip beam unit on. But when you just have your lights off in the daytime, you wouldn't want to, if you're flashing someone from a junction, you wouldn't want to flash them with a dip beam as well, so the diode blocks the signal and it can't get to the dip beam relay. So I think that's what that's for. We don't need it, it doesn't matter because we've got this feature. So that was that. It doesn't make any sense probably to you, I don't know. Learning all the time. Here's our heater wire there. We just got to test that volt drop on that one, and I'm ready to fit the uprated cable to that. So just electrical tests. And it's fan modification time. Yes, we're here. Here's our fan blowing away. We've got a normal voltage dialed in there now of 13.8 volts, and you can see the volt drop reaching the fan. Let's just have a look what we've got, make sure. We've got we're going to check that. Let's just take the positive lead off. We're just trying to boost the fan power. We know that we've got the input voltage coming in on that crock clip, so if I get that, I'm going to dial that in till I get 13.8, which is our battery voltage. Okay, so 13.8. Now what do we finally reach the fan? Becomes 12.9, so you're losing nearly a volt power. So you want to make see what the difference a volt makes to the fan. We just increased by a volt. That back down, you have a listen to the fan. You get a little bit extra push if you get the voltage up, but if we use a DC converter, go right up, we get a serious airflow. We're getting something big now. what we're trying to achieve. You're just losing a little bit of power on these cable feeds here. Now it's not really a big deal, okay, you can live with it. You're losing a volt, so most people out there, you won't really notice and be really that bothered about it. But what I thought I could do is when you pull the pull out on your lever for your fresh air boost, I'm going to get a DC converter to kick in and inject 14 volts down the line of the fan wire. So that means we're going to have to isolate the fan loom out of the car, at least follow it down. It comes out on the fuse box here. There's your fan wire on your fuse box, your yellow, red and black. What we can do for that is, luckily the loom, we've already got the loom in bits, so we can just get our cable and intercept this just in the loom. We're going to intercept it, and behind the engine bay, not behind the engine bay, just behind the bulkhead, so it's as short a run as possible, I'll intercept the cables. Then we'll build a DC module, converter module, and that'll just intercept the two cables, the neutral and the main feed, and it'll take over controlling the fan, but only on full speed. When you drop the relay out, it will revert back to factory wiring, so you won't actually know anything's happened. And the result will be that when I switch the boost on, it'll break into the cables and it'll become a 14 volt line, isolated by the relay so it doesn't feed back into the car. And then rather than up the cables, I'll just increase the voltage across this wire rather than just leave them as they are stock, but we'll intercept them further up in the car's loom. Double pole, double throw relay on it. One set of contacts will be 14, 15 volts, the other set will be your normal route to the car. So when the relay kicks in, it'll isolate the wires and inject full power 15 volts into these cables, which gives us a lot faster fan speed for fresh air vents. If it blows the motor, well, I've got plenty of spare motors anyway. We'll fuse it out as well. I think it'll work. I've had this running for 2 days at full pelt, off and on when I've come into the workshop, and no signs of the windings burning on the fan motor. I reckon they can take it. If it fails, it fails. The module will be located just under the bulkhead with 2 spades, and if it's a complete disaster 6 months down the line, I'll just link out the relay with some jumper links, remove the DC converter and put it back to how it was, so you wouldn't even know it had been there. So it's just while I've got the chance to get into them cables there, I'm going to do it, and that'll give me pull for fresh air, another 10-15% power. Okay, so that's that. Lights are done, relays in over there for your toggle, so that's all ready. So the loom tests out, the gauges come up on the gauge, fuel and temp running, so we're all done on the loom. And start putting it all back together. So that area's done. Just fit the cable in for the isolating relay for the blower motor, so that when I get my DC converter, I can fit that in to the loom that's ready. Alternator light comes on when you earth the alternator, so we're all alright on them cable runs there. Say side lights and everything else come on. Not tested the wiper motor circuit, I've no reason to think it'll fail. Test that up on the bench. That's it, that's the loom, really. We're there on the loom. Just got to tape up these points where I've intercepted for the toggle relay feed, then start boxing up the loom. Grey loom tape time, I think, everybody. And light testing on dip beam. Flick across with our super stalk. For high beam, and your dip beam. No, high beam there, the dip beam was before, sorry. High beam, dip beam. Obviously not connected the two outputs to the output across to the dip beam, high beam light. The dipped beam modules, high beam bulb, because we're still on Ford Lucas connections. We're not fitted our twin filaments yet, so when we do that we can be getting a four light setup. These are just standard Ford units at the moment, so we'll be doing the mod and testing that next as well. Fair amount of old work going on all standard stuff. So that relay's working there, of course, and that one picks up off it. They work together. Our outside lamps don't get touched, it's our inside lamp that gets the extra filament in it, controlled by that relay. As we know, we do the DC converter module on there if we want. Checked all the other wiring runs and they're all running up okay. So that loom I know is a good one now and all running. So I'm pretty much going to disconnect the feeds for everything and just do a bit more wire tidying. Leave me to get on with that wire tie. Here's another tip for you if you think you're not getting the best out of your blower motor. You saw me just testing that one there. Here's one off a Mk3. I can't turn that freely. So the shaft has seized. The bearings are seized at the back. You can WD-40 that and get that running a lot better. If you take this apart, you'll see your sealed bearing units and they can just go tight, so WD will help, or other lubricant that will help, but you need a long life one as well. WD doesn't last forever, so I WD it and then some bearing oil on there. Strictly speaking, they're not roller bearings or anything, I think they're just brass bushes, but if you want to get a bit more power out of your fan, take it out carefully, watch it because they can be glued in, especially the fiberglass ones. Don't prise the edge. If you've got a fiberglass one, you'll snap the edge. You're going to have to just evenly get it out. Fiberglass ones are a bit harder, so you can pull on that bolt and come up with an idea to get it out without chipping the edge of your fiberglass. If it's plastic, then they're usually just alright, just leave around the edge. Well, sometimes glued in. You can see the recess for the glue there. This one's not been glued, I don't know why. You get a bit of air leakage if you don't glue them in. Or I say mastic probably. But that's seized. So we can free that up if we wanted to use that one. Interestingly, this fan's got the degree markings on it. I don't know why they put them on. 0, 60, 120, 180, right way around. No idea what that's for. But a little tip. Take the fan out, give it an oil, give it a grease down. It'll run better. A little bit of info for you, kindly supplied by Steve on the forum there. Now he's informed us that this cable is a Ford callback add-on. You know, we talked about that cable going through there, and this might be a shunt. Well, it's actually marked up. If I'd have taken the time to read that on the back, it actually says fuse link on the back of this piece of rubberized cable, which is a very unusual looking fuse. I can only imagine if it is copper, it was designed to just burn out, save the whole cable going up. Obviously this would go first because it's the smallest gauge, so if you did have that direct short on your relay and you've got this fitted, you're in with a chance, because it'll just take this, what you call fuse link, out. A rubberized piece of short cable, presuming that it's copper under, looking at the conventional connection onto the eyelet, you can only presume it's either a low melt metal or copper, and that was a retrofit. So a lot of you'll see that you'll have this eyelet straight onto your battery and not have this link in. Fords have obviously found the design fault and then inserted the link. So that design fault could have either been on the that relay we discussed. And you can actually see that they've soldered it in. Ford don't normally solder it. Bear in mind, this is a new old stock loom, so it's never been on a car before. So look what they've done. The looms were modified, and then subsequent looms coming out of the factory would have had this added to the loom. They probably recalled the looms and added these to them. So I think that's what they would have done. So that goes in, but I would still fit the fuse on the relay. Now I've got a new relay now here mocked up on because I'm testing my lighting rig. But that faulty relay we discussed and I showed you there how it burns out. Look at that main red cable then. There's no other markings on it, just the main red cable. You've just enough there to get a cut in on that and get your inline fuse. Now if you use a mini blade fuse, that's the holder I'm talking about. These are waterproof ones, also they call splash proof. It obviously won't go IP65 or whatever it is. Mini blade fuse, so you're going 30 amp on that mini blade. Comes with that much cable, they're not very expensive, a couple of quid. Then all you've got to do, obviously you'll be working in your engine bay, so it's a lot harder than what I'm showing you here on the floor. Still doable. Make sure you put some protective coverings over your engine bay, bearing in mind you might have a gas soldering iron going or electric soldering iron. You'll have disconnected your battery. Cover your inner wing up nice with preferably a non-flammable material, ideally a fire blanket or something which can take it if your gas soldering iron gets fallen on the floor or whatever happens to it, or you get a bit of over flame. Cut there and insert the fuse. You can use block connectors if you wanted to, but I would prefer a solder join and then a heat shrink to make it really neat. If you don't want to do that and you're worried about the car, you could use the Scotch lock. So you could Scotch lock straight across and then just cut the wire in the middle, and that would also work, and that'd get you without any tools at all. So you just buy this, get your Scotch lock on that side, lock on, that side lock on, and then once you're done, just cut the wire, or you cut the wire first and lock on. Makes no odds. You can take a piece out and just Scotch lock in. That'd also work. I'm going to solder and heat shrink. Well, in fact, I say I'm going to solder and heat shrink. I'm fitting it just further up the loom so that I can tuck it under the inner wing, but if you want to do that, you'd have to break into your harness. It's just because I'm building a harness at the moment that I'm doing it that way. So there you go, that's all you've got to do, and that means that if the relay does fail and that piece of metal breaks apart inside, it's just going to short and take that fuse out straight away, and then you're protected. Alternatively, you could satisfy yourself by just putting in the fuse link to the battery, or indeed fitting a fuse on the battery. Let's have a look how that would work. Simply, even easier idea, it's just go there. A lot easier. So there's two ways you can do it. Totally up to you. I would say for the DIY at home, just go for the fuse holder there like that. I'll go 30 amps and you're done. Okay, so I'm going to show you my installation. As I said, I'm going to cut further up the loom so I can tuck it under the inner wing. So stripping back on I've cut into the cable, located the cable. See how it just comes into the T-piece. You could, if you're doing it this way, you're going to have to just find your single red feed. You'll see another feed on my loom, but that wouldn't be there on yours. I've added that, so you should just be able to find the single red feed. If you go in this way, cut in there, and then we'll prepare the end of the wires for the fuse holder now. Just one more to strip back. Okay, so I've prepared the ends of both cable, and then I've slotted on my heat shrink. Heat shrink's just slightly oversized, that's how you use it, and when you heat that up it crushes down nice. So slide that right away out of the way, because the heat of the solder can start to try and shrink that as you're trying to work, so you don't want to keep it back out of the way. Now I'm going to push these together and get the solder on. I'm going to insert them so they slide into one another. You can go side by side. I like to just slot the wires and push in. Okay, so pushed in together, solder goes on now. You need a good iron, 40 watt iron to do this, so gas soldering one will do. Okay, soldered up, slide over, once it's slightly cooled. If it's still hot when you slide over it, you lose your heat shrink. Over we go. That's it, we'll heat that up, and same for this side. Then when I wire wrap my loom back up, I'll leave this enough just out, tucked under the inner wing. That's why we have the waterproof connector, just in case any water's around. But that'll be the end of my job on that relay feed. Okay, so you do the same, but there. Hope that helps. Oh, yeah, you want your solder to end up looking something like that. No bits sticking out, no sharp bits of copper wire sticking out, and then a good all-round flow of solder around that join. As I said, a good iron helps with that. Underpowered iron, you'd be burning away all day, but that's got a good take, see? All the way round. Down towards you, yeah. but with your spray on you can move it a bit. One Wong Chong sensor. Slow rain, heavy rain. That's the one. Faster. Intermittent's just going to be and still on. We're building this is now the engine bay and dash loom combined and joined up together, undergoing some of our testing. So we've got some stuff going on. I think we saw early on in the previous clip there, just testing the systems on high beam and dip. So we're all okay with that. I'm happy with the way things are going. A little buzzy relay there, just a bad contact on that old black relay. So side light and main control switch, but we've also got one of the modules which we're fitting. I don't know if I explained it, but you saw us building the sensor unit just then. This is it's a range sensor and a light sensor module which clips into the loom with these multi-plugs here. It can all be overridden, which is a good thing. We just splice into the wiper motor cables in the appropriate points. We've got the wiper motor mocked up, as you saw it running earlier. We just get an earth on that and we can get the wiper motor running just by activating the earth. It's just because it's a bit of a rusty plate, so we're turning that off, just checking the pedal operator goes, which it does once you've got your wires on, of course. Start operating the wiper motor, and we're starting to splice into the Ford Loom so that we can get this multi-plug which goes into the rain sensing module. It's just a question of wiring it into the systems. It's got twin speed control on it, and it's got an override facility and also a sensor to activate it. You don't have to have it on if you don't want. And how it works, when we press normally the system won't be on at all, so you'll be driving along, it starts raining, and you just switch your wipers on as normal. When you do that, it then arms the system, so it's now live until you turn the ignition off again, or you could have a kill switch if you wanted, but I'm just going to have it. It's now active, and it would start to clear the screen. You can also bring it online by pressing once on the foot pedal. You'll hear one of the system relays clicking in there. So we have an active relay here which just arms the system up and tells it that it's come online. If you don't press your foot on the washer, or if you don't switch on the wipers, this relay won't latch, and it won't send the signal to the module to tell it to come online, so the module will be idle. So the idea of that is when you first turn on your ignition, you wouldn't want it coming on and doing a wipe, because it does do one test wipe. So I didn't want every time I got in the car one test wipe. I'd rather it so that I pick when it comes online. So I would just do this to bring it online. That would then switch intermittent wipers if it was light rain. As the rain gets heavier, it'll switch in faster speeds. I've tested it on a piece of glass and it seems to be okay. If we find that it's not a problem to use, or we don't want to use it, it's only a question of snipping one wire and the whole system would go offline, or you can just pull the plug on the end. So that's that. It also comes with a automatic light system. This is the plug for the lighting system. The lighting system is a light sensor used in the same position as the rain sensor, and that does when it starts, you can set the level, but when it starts to get dim, it'll activate your side lights. Then when it's darker, your main lights will come on. You can deactivate that as well by using the lighting switch. If I was to just turn off and back on, the system is then off until you turn the ignition off, and then it will rearm itself. You can kill it by just doing that. So if it's annoying you and the lights are on when they shouldn't be, or there's a time when you don't want your lights on, you can kill it by just turning that off, and then ignition off and on will rearm it again. So that's a great idea. The system's available on eBay. It's 40 quid. That's not bad. This is a little bit Chinglish, a little bit of Chinese English in there. Worries me a little bit, but looking at the quality of the build, it seems all right. And it's certainly working on test. So we'll see how it goes in the real world. If we don't like it, as I said, it's easy to override. The only thing we've lost is we've done a lot of wiring. One downside with the system for the auto lights is that on a Cortina, here's a lighting switch off the Cortina. You're going to see the back of this lighting switch looks complicated. Reason there's so many wires for just two lighting functions, side light and main beam, because dip's done on the stalk, is that your lighting system's split to two circuits. It's actually 3 circuits if you include your dash lights. Dash lights are on one wire, then you've got left hand front and rear side lights, then right hand front and rear side lights. You can see the wires are actually doubled up there. That's your pair. One's going to the back lights, one's going to the front on the left hand side. Same here, one going to the back, one to the front on the right hand side, and the middle one just goes straight to the dashboard illumination. The idea is if your dash bulbs blow, fail, take the fuse out, won't take the switch out, and you've still got the lights on. Likewise, if the right hand side goes, it's independent, so the switch is needed to route those independently, and also to help with the park light which you use on the indicator stalk when the ignition's off. You have that facility as well. So that's that. But in order to override it for the auto lights, so that when the auto light module kicks in, it can supply power to all 3, you could common them all up and just have one wire that does all your lights. But I didn't want to do that because it's interfering with the wiring harness and the design concept of the fuses and the way that it works, and the parking light as well would switch all 4 instead of just left or right. So I had to build a relay pack, and one of those relays is actually the wiper arm relay for the foot switch, so you can hear it clicking. That would actually normally lock on if I had the 12 volt feed. I'll put the 12 volt feed to the arming wire. Let's see if we can grab it on there. Now when I do this, you'll get one click. Maybe not that one, you've got to have power down here as well. You'll get one click from that. We've got to group them all together. It's difficult, as I said, to do with the camera in your hand. Hold on. So one of these is for the arm relay. I've now put the arm wire on, so it's now armed. So as soon as I press this foot switch, that relay will lock. One click, you get a self part there. That now stays on, and that now supplies trigger signal here on the end of that cable, which tells the module, okay, we want to go auto, wipe, auto rain sense, comes in on another pin. It's then on and your wipers are on automatic fully. By turning off the ignition, you'll go back to manual. I've done it that way so that if I didn't like the system, don't have to arm it. I can easily just disconnect that trigger wire. I'll leave that somewhere under the dash. I'll put a kill switch probably down there, where if we don't like the system, we just switch it off. But it should be fully automatic, and I said it'll only come online when you activate the wiper. One click of the wiper switch and back off again. Would run continuously there, but back off would now be on intermittent, and then if the rain goes from intermittent to heavy rain again, you don't need to throw that down. It'll just kick in automatically and activate the wiper speed accordingly, full speed or slow speed. So it's great for that. Needs a little bit of splicing into the loom though, and as I said, that's the first relay. The second two relays, all they do is override the different side light connections on the back of the switch without interfering with the harness and grouping everything together, so it just keeps it original. It just piggybacks across the switch, so that just parallels the action of this. And those two relays there, I've used two because I only had 3 pin output single relays, and we needed a total of 4 connections. You normally only get 2 on a relay if it's a single pole, single throw. These were double poles. Anyway, I had to connect them across to use that. Those 2 relays come online when the lights in circuit detects that it's dark. It then comes online and sends a trigger feed down to these relays, which aren't self-latching. They'll go off when the module tells them to go off. They'll then simulate activating that switch in the side light position. For the main beam, we intercept the wire for the main beam. I've already broken into it there. You can see it's soldered up and ready to accept the wire. There's 2 outputs from the lighting module, one for side lights and then one for main beam. So the second wire, because main beam is only 2 wires on this switch, it's not like the side lights where it's all individually fused. The actual main beam wires are just those 2. That's all it does. The rest are all side light wires. So just those 2. So we can intercept and inject a 12-volt feed from the module over into the lighting circuit, and that kicks in our lights like that. Okay, and then if you want to cancel the module, you just flick off and on and it will cancel the automatic module. It does that by ways of intercepting. If you can see here, I've intercepted the dashboard wire light because there's triple outputs. I pick the dashboard one. You break into that wire, loop it through the module, it goes right through the module and back out again. So the module, when it's not active, has those just reconnected. When it's active, it'll break those and read the signal from here, so you can then just give it a 12-volt signal because you've broke into the cables. So now that becomes a switch straight to the module. So I'm just telling it off on to the module on auto. And then it becomes automatic, which it will bring these relays in, switching on the side lights, and it'll also connect power back to the dash lights that I've interrupted. So it just takes over. There's not that many wires. It looks worse than it is. They always do look worse than it is. As soon as you start building the system up, it starts to become wires everywhere. You can see that we're ready to do loom tape on these. We're trying to do it again with the branch and the trunk principle, like that. That's what I've done there. I need to install the washer system as well, so that we're going to get a wash motor on each press of that. So we need to do that. That's the next sub harness to do. The main beam override relays over there, that's all alright. So we're nearly getting to the end of this main loom modification. I've been on it a couple of days. Again, it takes longer than you think, but having this system running, it's nice to have. It's there to try out. It's an improvement. I don't like intermittent wipers in terms of you have to go like this off and on, so it's nice to have an intermittent system that can go back to stock, so you're never going to know it's there. Sorry, on that switch I should have been for wipers. So that's what I'm up to a little bit. There's the wiring diagram, circuit diagrams. There's not much to it on the pin outs really. My idea of doing that's not included on that wiring harness. They don't tell you to do this, they just give you 2 wires, side light and main beam. Well, that's no use to me because I've got to keep the original configuration, so which meant I had to build that add-on pack, what I call a relay pack. And then a couple more little mods as well. As I said, the self-arming system wasn't included. I had to build the latching relay for that self-arm. That's how it works, and you saw us just then installing the rain washing system and trying it out. It works very well. But don't forget that I am aware that they're notoriously finicky, the rain sensors, although on my Mondeo over there it works perfect, and some systems are better than others. It depends what you like and what your driving style is. Let's see how it performs anyway. You might find it's pretty good, we don't know. But what I did want to do is make sure all them cables are in, rather than me get the car and think, oh, one day I'm going to fit this. I'd rather have everything ready to go. I'll even include a few extra wiring cable runs with dead ends at the end of each cable in case I ever want to add something and didn't want to route the cable through. I'll add a couple of spare cables, then we'll wrap the ends of them, label them up as spares, so there'll be some spare embedded wires as well, just to cover any things that you might want to add. Obviously that's limited to what you can do. I'll only do a few cables like that. So quick little spin through before we take you out to the soda next. And heavy works continue as we go on building our next module for the car. Now this module is the wiper wash control module. I haven't covered the actual build of this because I felt there was quite a lot of soldering and tech stuff in 17, so I didn't go crazy on it, but I'll talk you through what I've built. It's all finished now. What we've got is a full control for the wiper washer. It's all done on a Vero. I ran out of relays, so I had to piggyback these two on. They would have gone on the board, but they're remotely mounted. We've glued them in place. What we've got here, you got a that's the washer motor relay there. I'm touching with my finger. That's the wiper override relay there. I'm touching. That creates a cycle on the wipers. That simply switches power to the washer pump, the electric washer pump being fitted. It's controlled off the foot pedal of the Cortina, the original washer squeezy pedal. Talking through the circuit there, touching the 12 volt regulator. That just keeps the 12 volts constant. If your battery voltage rises, this just keeps it 12 volts, so the timing circuit, which relies upon voltage, is steady. Touching there an IC, that's a decade counter, better known as a 4017. That counts up to 10, then goes back to the beginning again. Touching an LED, which is like on the other modules, a clock, run by a little 555 chip. So this decade counter counts the pulses on the clock and goes round in a 10 output cycle. Then you'll see some diodes here. They just tap off the outputs of the chip at various points that I set for the programming, and that activates transistors there which run the relays. So all that happens is when I initiate a cycle by hitting the switch, one relay here, the piggyback relay, that'll latch on as long as the other relay's off. That holds its holding current, steps through, and then you can program the cycle that you want. I've done it so you get a wash relay on first, so you don't get a dry wipe. So wash comes on for 1 second, then it's followed by a pulse on this relay, which then sets the wipers in motion. It'll then wait, so it'll miss some of the counts. Then it'll wash one more time with the wipe at the same time. Then it'll wait. Then it'll do one post wipe when everything's drying off, and then it'll output the kill relay here, which will knock out the latch relay, and then the cycle's dead till you rearm it by locking the latch relay. Inputs to it then is just a ground here, constant live for the latch, and then a trigger off your foot switch there on my finger, and that'll set the sequence going. I'll run that through now for you, a sequence. Okay, so permanent live connected. This would be me pressing the foot switch. I'll take you across here. So we get a lock on now, we're counting. We'll get a bleep on the bleeper in a minute, there we go. That's just showing those contacts on the wiper relay have closed. Off it goes round its little cycle. Another wipe. Off for a wipe, and then circuit's finished. That's it, just goes round in a cycle. So that's going in a project box here. I found a place for it to fit under the dash, plenty of room still. We're going to wire all that in. We're going to multi-connector plug here so I can take the module out on this multi-plug if it ever fails, or I need to modify it or change the programming if I don't like the way that it is. All I've got to do is swap the diodes for the programming, and that, and also change the time if I want, with a little resistor circuit just at the back. Could have put a variable on there, but I've set it constant. That's it. So I'm just going to build the box, wire it up. That's your washer control module. So a little bit more electronics for the tech guys out there. Okay, just putting the interconnecting wiring in. Just going across my fuse holder. Here we go. Get these fuse cables on. 2 for there. We'll pop those on, we'll get it tested. Okay, that's the multi-plug on the fuse built in. So we're just going to glue gun that one into the socket here at the front, and then we're going to test the module with a real motor and the wiper. So, wiper control module, closing it up, ready for testing. The hot melt glue in there now to seal the socket, just doesn't wobble around. We're pretty much good to go there. Just about lift the circuit board out for modifications. It'll just fold back on them flying leads. So we'll be testing this unit soon. I've had it on soak test overnight, running on cycle non-stop, 24 hours, 12 hours sorry, and it's going through alright, no problems. Pretty straightforward electronics, pretty robust, tried and tested components. There's nothing really that's anything to learn there. All the relays have got the diodes across the coils just so there's no spikes, and just basic components, real simple stuff. Regulator 555, 4017, some timing capacitors there, 12 volt relays, regulator on a Vero, some 2N222 transistors, again off the shelf, tried and tested, fused input, and then the outputs there, pair of contacts for the wiper motor which sends its own power into the plug. It's totally independent from the circuit through the contacts of the relay. Wiper motor takes its 12 volt feed from this fuse, washer motor, simply because the washer motor is an aftermarket part, so it's not part of the Cortina Loom, so we fuse that separately. Okay, so really that's it. It's all on that multi-plug. We can get this boxed up and then get it on test. Just waiting for that glue to dry now. All full and all set up. Thought I'd clear myself some space and just do the business. I've just got everything on test at the moment, so I'm just testing everything out. We've got a wash wipe system going now. We've got a wiper motor fitted over there. We're going to hit this switch. Off we go. Automatic. Wiper motor kicks in. The washer kicks in for another hit. Okay, let's that go up the screen and waits a while for one last clear. And we're all done on the wash wipe cycle. And now the squirty bottle. Let's squirt for England. Screen set up over here. And there we go. You can just hear it. You can't actually see the motor running. You can just hear it running there as we go for the screen. Fast speed now, heavy rain coming down from the top, so that's all working good. Automatic lights now covering up the sensor. For auto lights, we've cancelled the auto lights at the moment. We need to switch them back in, because you can cancel your auto lights by just flicking quickly on and off with your switch. So we're still operational manually. switch off. Now, until ignition goes off, you don't get your auto lights back on, so we ignition off here, fire back up. That'll give us what we need, which is auto lights when I cover the sensor. There you go. Then off after a short delay, so you don't get chatter on the relays, and off on all the time. It waits a little while, then they'll cut out if it's light enough in here. It's getting a little bit darker now in here, so I need to point the screen towards the light just to get them to go out, because we've gone into dark since I've been setting it up. It's now seen, oh there we go, we're out, so just point that towards the light there. You can adjust the sensitivity, so that's why we've got the screen mobile on a little truck. We're trucking our screen around the workshop, pointing it into the light, then pointing it into the dimmer light to just test the sensors. So all running there. Okay, so another wash wipe cycle now. On with a foot. Wash, 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 wash. Get them wipers running now. There we go. Another one in little squirt as it's wiping still. Then it waits, just let that scrape up. Then one more, and our cycle's finished. So that's the wash wipe module that we built working properly. Now looks a rat's nest at the moment, but I've left length on all the cables to begin the run. Here's a nice run already starting to be bunched up on our side light override relay and toggle relay to arm the wipers. We'll check that out now that we're not armed on the wipers. The voltage gauge shows what the wipers are armed because the probe on the voltage gauge is connected to the arm wire on the wiper module. So we want to make sure that the auto arm works, so we switch off to kill it, make sure it's all off. We switch on, and then we're ready to go. Power down there just at the moment, and then we hit wash wipe. It will wait on the second cycle, on the second, there we go. As soon as it fires the wipers we get an arm. So now that brings online the wash wipe module now, which would have been lying dormant. So we just go for that and we get a wipe. We've got lights on too, and we're wiping away. And wipers off, and then if there's enough ambient light, lights will go out. Turn the screen to the door so it can pick up the outside light. And that'll get us in a sec. I'm sure it will. Once it's just timed itself out, we're going to wait for that to happen. It's not as bad. I mean, there's loads of wires, but don't worry, they're okay. There's loads of wires, but we're alright with them. It's going to take a while to cut off, but it will cut off. There you go, it's off. So that's that little test done. All we have to do now, we've tested all the principles. We make sure we've got fuses fitted where appropriate, and we begin to wire wrap that loom up, because we know we've got every run that we need and every cable that we need. So when it all goes together, you'll see that I've kept the original fittings. Even on the pump, when we've intercepted it for the switch, we've kept all the fittings, so you can just plug back in if you don't like what I've done, leaving the car nice and standard. Simply a question of pulling out some plugs. If you wanted to remove it, you can even just unplug this module, because it only overrides items. It doesn't rely on it's being plugged in for you to work. So that's the great thing. You just unplug. By unplugging that module and that one, the car automatically reverts back to how it should be. So if there's a failure with it, at least you can just pull the unit out and you're still running. That was the plan. That's what we're on with. We're looking good. First system testing okay. There's an extra override relay had to be fitted here to simulate the contacts. Problems being with 2-speed motors is you can't mix and match power. You've got to be really careful. You can't have positive on them at the same time. One of the relays was trying to do that on the washer cycle, so I had to fit this just to make sure it toggles one out, emulates the original features of the foot pump, so it's just copying the feature of the foot pump. So we're all running nice. We're wash wiping, and there's a nice post wipe delay, which we can program the time on, of course, by just opening the box. So we're good to go. Okay, that's this little section. Next you'll see me wiring this all up. Still waiting for the transport to come and collect the shell. So this is all in between, but there's a lot of work gone into this that needed to be done. Once it's all wrapped, you'll like it. It'll look really smart. It looks bad now, but don't worry, you watch what we can do with all this. Watch what we can do with this. We make this real nice. We're going to make that real honey out of that. Look at that. Ain't that a honey? Okay. Leave that with me to do some wrapping then, please. Now everything's all nicely tested. We'll get some nice loom tape on there. It's going to look exciting. Done a little mini loom there. That's just gone on black. We'll overwrap that in grey. And then we'll make some diagrams and sketches of the work we've done with the colour codes of the wires. So for fault finding, we're going to be able to do that. Okay, over and out for this little section. Okay, so modules in and running nice. And now we're doing the wrap. So we've just done one branch there going down to the main trunk. And then another branch there for your two modules. Placed easily in the car for quick release if you need them. So tested. There's our system, our wiper system. All ready to rock. Looking neat. And then down we go for the trunking. So we're just doing the wrapping there. First wrap. Main loom and harness for the override wires, and the loom for the headlight, the side light override relay, and the latch relay for the wiper arming system up to the wiper switch. So just going to do those trunks and finish the loom off. Now you can see we've got plenty of stuff ready to wrap. I've gone along with a Tessa tape. This is good stuff. It's a cloth tape. Tessa's a well-known sticky tape manufacturer. It's good stuff, that. So we build that, bind it up with the Tessa. They're ready for the Ford loom tape to go on top. So all the way up to the ignition coil up there, branch off there, look, see for the alternator, wiper motor connection, and following down. There's our relay fuse fitted for the headlamp relay feed. Some cables there to tidy up. There's our high beam toggle relay on its own little loom and a clip, so it can clip nicely in just by the headlight surrounds in the radiator area of the car and the grille. We've got to build the feed for the high beam on the dip side of things. That goes, you've got your multi-plug there, side light, dip beam, and then we need the high beam wire, which we do by just using an existing spade clip and just break out to that, solder on. And this will be an extra wire that just fits on the back of the light unit, one for each side. So we've just got to solder them up. Once we've soldered those up, we're ready to do this run on this branch all the way up to the end. There's another spade for the other light, high beam. Then we'll wrap that, down we go, and we'll make the branch onto this trunk. So that'll be the end of the trunk run. You'll see an extra cable added. That's the frost sensor power feed, and there's the output from the frost sensor. They're embedded into the run. That's it for any extra cables. You'll see the frost sensor branches off on its own sub-loom, on its own loom, sorry, it's not a sub-loom. It has an earth feed which we tap into the existing earth wires. So that completes any extra wiring for the entire harness. You'll see that the frost sensor wires come out through the bulkhead amp meter connection. Again, we'll wrap that, get that neat. Then that would be everything done for the loom. So what I do, as I said, I bind it first with a cloth tape so it's nice and tight, and then we start the loom wrap. That's a complete trunk. From that end down, you'll see how that goes, and everything just tees off it. So you do all your branches, I said this earlier, you do all your branches first, so they're coming in on T-shapes, and then you do your final run. So that's also, that bulkhead connection is also a branch, that one's doing first. I do that before I forget, get that done. That's it, so I'll wrap. Let me wrap now. As I say, I've already done some wrapping. That's how it works. It ends up looking a neat job. Let me get on and wrap that. Now then, all the branches are done. This is time for the main trunk run. So our main trunk run starts just by the lighting relay end of the loom, and it goes all the way down. This is the longest run, all the way down till it hits the battery. So it's a straight run. So everything teeing off, that's ready to go. We've even done a little mini loom for the frost sensor wire, so that's got its own harness. Tricky bit will just be getting around that fuse there, but that's the run. Alright, so we'll do that, we'll get that run on. We're ready with some tape, we've got enough to do that run there. So I'll start at this end. I like to start with just putting the cloth tape sticky on the inside edge of the roll, and then I stick it on and then tension up the roll, then away I go with my wrap, and I keep the tape at an angle. I'll put it on the tripod now and we'll film that in fast speed for you going through. Okay, ready to drop the fast forward. Tester on the end of there to attach to the beginning of the loom run. And we'll fast forward now for you. Actually starting further up, that's the wrong place. We start here, sorry, fast forward begins now. Takes it out of your fingers, that. Okay, wrapped. Just got to finish off. Now, just at the end of the runway, we've got this fuse link wire. We didn't know what that was, if you recall, and we found out that Ford retrofitted this to the looms, or later looms fitted this heat shrink, heat-proof rubberized cable. Looks like a copper core. We're going to presume it's designed to melt out first before the rest of the loom. You can see that it says fuse link on it there, actually printed on. So we're going to use that, we need that. But just a bit of a shabby connection at the end, so I'll fix that up before I finalise the wrap on that one. So I'll just unwrap a little bit there and just fix that bad connection there, then we're done. Just improved that connection there and cleaned it up, ready for the solder now. We'll solder across and then we can finalise our wrap. We know the wrapping goes just up to halfway up that rubberised cable, but not too far because it's going to burn out, isn't it? So if it's fails, that is. Let me solder that. Well, your good iron comes in, said this before, just to get the power on that. Tin up on this, this is the amp gauge wire. And this is your main feed wire. You'll see that that'll tin up pretty quick. It's clean metal. Radio Wales, don't ask me how that tuned into Radio Wales, but it did. It's actually not too bad, to be fair. Quite like the Welsh accent. Soldered up, and I'll just make sure that's not sharp. Just trim that little bit of sharp edge of the solder off there. That's okay. We tested that up now, simply to give it protection from getting through the wiring harness loom tape. Tester's just a good thing. So away I go with that, and then I'll carry on my wrap now. Then I'll clean the end of this up in a little bit of mild acid, and that's the end of that done. Okay, we got the loom up into the dash, as you can see quite clearly there. They're messing on in. I'm not really, it's all going to plan. We now just piggyback the loom onto the sublooms. I'm splicing in. I'm just connecting all the systems up. Each system got its own feed. So we're just connected into that. So there's another power feed. That's the power feed which goes up to the wiper module and the automatic lights and the automatic wipers and the wash wipe. So we just a little heat shrink join on there, and we I'm off camera just plugging in the heat gun. Now you're gonna see, just let me do this. You're going to see that there's wires all over the place. As you can see, look, these aren't part of the loom. I'm breaking into the feed wires on the ignition switch and stuff like that, so I can pick up my feeds to this auxiliary fuse box. That needs to intercept the loom, and then that feeds the extra systems, as you know on earlier videos. Whilst we're doing that, we need to have the loom tape unwrapped. When we're finished, we'll bunch up the best that we can get. But we've got to leave fuses available, so if something goes wrong to fault find, we'd be taking out the speedo clocks and going in here, and then we'd get that, give us access to the modules and the fuses. The modules themselves are all accessible by taking the cowling out, including the wiper rain sensor, which at the moment is dangling through the front, so it's out of the way. But here it is there, so I'll bring that through. Well, that'll be positioned inside here. I'm not sure if I'm fixing it yet. It may just be foam wrapped to stop it rattling. It'll have a foam jacket, and it might just be velcroed to one of the harnesses so that it can easily be withdrawn if required. Okay. Some parts are ready to fire up. I've already got the Bluetooth going. I'll take you around now. We're coming off the tripod. Hold on, there we go. So a rat's nest of wires, but I know how it all works. So there's that loom which we built earlier on. That's all wrapped, and that's on here, and it's all got the power connected to it. So we've connected up some of the features on the dash as well now, and we're starting to boot things up and get things running as they should. You can see there we've got a heated rear, which is working. We've got hazard lights which are on. We just need a hazard light bulb, that's blown, but you can see it's trying to go. So hazards on, just needs a bulb in the warning light indicator. Our master warning module's not yet connected in, that's going to be one of the last jobs. There's the rain module there. Here's our wash white module here, and the harness for it's just sticking out of the front, ready to hook into it and boot it up. Now that I've got the power to it, here's the sensor for the rain module. I've got a spare sensor, the other one's glued to the windscreen permanently now, but this is a spare one. So that means we'll be able to test the light off on. And you can, to a degree, test the wiper motor by rubbing that. It fools it into thinking it's raining. But it was already tested, should be okay. Parrot's on.
Language, English.
That's in. Immobiliser's running. That's now hooked into the Loom and the rest of the sensors. We've got ignition on as well. So that's because we're hooked up with an earth to the alternator and then the multi-plug in the back of the alternator. You need that earth, otherwise it doesn't send the right signal to the red ignition light on the dash. Some of the headlight relays won't fire up because I've not got earths connected to those brown earth wires. That doesn't matter too much just yet. Subwoofer's not on, but the radio is in and everything works on the ignition switch, which is down here somewhere. There we are. We can turn that with a screwdriver and everything switches off as it should, and then the immobiliser boots up. Immobiliser's going off and on when I use the activating key. We've got high beam running. Let me get this stalk, give you the high beam, and then indicators, they're on. Okay, so they're on. Quite a lot of the systems are running and already going. Oh, we even got a glove box light. We're on with a glove box light too, so that's okay. Let's say we're okay with the radio. So okay, yeah, I like the way things are looking. I'll try and find me a bulb for there as well. Now that I've just soldered that wire in, which is the feed wire to the wiper module system, which comes out here through its own smaller rated fuse onto that blade there. This wire will have to be left exposed. There's your radio auxiliary wire. We're actually not using that, we've tapped in somewhere else. That's spare. Heater motor connectors are on as well, with no heater motor yet. I'm just hoping that there's enough. I'm trying to keep that profile there, that's my minimum, so everything's mustn't protrude beyond that. So just about going to do it. I hope everything fits when I come to set this up in the car. Let me connect this up now and I'll take you through. Hopefully we'll get auto lights working, so let's get that on. But we haven't got the dash lights yet, maybe I should wire those in next to the wiring loom. I'll do that. Okay, let me do a few more mods, I'll be right back. Now I'm just popping a 12 volt regulator into the feed to the LED dash lights because I don't want to damage them. If you stick a voltage regulator in, just means that it's constant brightness. Excuse me, frog in my throat there today. Constant brightness. I'll put that in line and we'll heat shrink over it, so it's actually built into the cable itself. So 7812 voltage regulator keeps the voltage exactly at 12 volts, so don't get any spikes in the LEDs blowing them up. Solder that up now. Input, ground and output. Easily done. Some heat shrink on and off we go. Okay, input, ground and output soldered onto the reg. Time for the heat gun on those little legs of the chip, the IC, the regulator, whatever you want to call it. That's that one, and then our complete overheat shrink once I've just got the cables stretched out. Just going to pop that one over the whole assembly. It's an inline reg. I don't want to, LEDs is the one thing I don't want to be blowing. So not much on screen there until I do this. The camera's a bit close to the bench, so sorry about that. All sorts of different angles on this video. Like pull through, and then just get it there. Take them. I mean, if it heated up, strictly speaking, that would melt through the cables. It's not going to happen. It's not really the way you should do that, I suppose, but it's not going to get hot enough to do that. It's fused anyway. But so we make a little package, just enough heat shrink diameter there for me to slide it across. Just. Let's just get it just over there. Just hope that YouTube doesn't pick up the meatloaf it's on. Otherwise I've got to re-edit again. Okay, gun that up. Okay, inline 12 volt feed, straight to the dash lights, straight to our interior lighting circuit now. So an earth tag on here so I can screw it to the earth chassis, and then find the interior light feed, which is just out the dash on the loom there, splice in, and then the auto light circuit's wired now, so we should get dash lights on. I should be able to control the off on feature on the auto lighting circuit. Fit that. Right, so we're on with automatic lights. If I put this is one of the fuel gauge lights or amp gauge or whatever. If I put it in front of the sensor just here, it'll cut the lights out because it thinks it's daytime. And they'll cut back in on the cycle because it's going to turn the lights off, and then of course just keep going like that. You can deactivate it, so I don't want the auto lights on now, for example. For some reason I don't want my side lights on, discretion or whatever it's going to be. Turn that on there, turn that back off, that deactivates the auto. Now there's no auto lights now, so covering up the sensor doesn't do anything until my next ignition off on, and then they revert back to how they were. So if I powered off ignition back on and it was dark, auto lights would be back. So basically you can cancel on that switch. Same applies on the wipers as well. You can cancel on the wipers. That'll be the next test. Whether we need the wiper model is already connected, we just need to connect the wiper motor. But I know the. Remember my sequencing module for the wash wipe? There it is, just there. Well, that's now online. You'll hear it. It's clicking away, doing its stuff. You hear the clicks go. You'll hear the washer motor override relay clicking. Sorry, wiper motor relay. That's the wiper motor relay. That just simulates the foot pedal switch. That's kicking out, so that system's online as well. So we're all getting there now. We can start thinking about getting the bunching done on these cables so that everything's tied back. Some cables won't be wrapped; they'll be left exposed so that you can get to cables, but if you get it too tight you can't trace back. But I'm just going to do the best I can on that. I knew that it'd end up becoming a lot of wires, and it is a lot of wires, but there's a lot of systems on there. Seems like it's all going to fit. Once we've tidied it up and zip tied that up, it'll look a lot better, so don't worry about that just now. What I am pleased with is the side lights themselves. After I'd not seen them for a while. Interestingly, this camera doesn't pick up what I can see. I think I said that before, but they look a lot better than what I'm looking at on the viewfinder of this camera. I'm getting a nice purple glow here. You can just see the edge of it on this one, but that's more pronounced in real life to do with the way the camera records. So Bluetooth's on, indicators are on, mobilizer's active, stereo's active, glove box lights, ashtray lights. Not tested the, doesn't look like that's working, so we're going to have to get that fixed. It's not locking into the, whether it's the actual, yeah, I think this is knackered. Okay, I don't think it's the socket. It can only be an adjustment on the socket if so. I'll have to get that going. I can't have that. No, it's totally dead. So we need to sort out the, don't know, I need it, but I just like it to work. The master warning light, leave that for another day. It's getting late now, so doing quite good getting the harness back into the setup. I'm quite enjoying that. Okay, I'll be in another video tomorrow. See you in a bit. Okay, just before you go, you can see how crazy all our cabling looks, but don't worry, worse than it is, it's all compacted in one area, and the bench has got test gear on it and other stuff. Once you clear back, you can start looking a lot neater. Clock's ticking as well. Our little time clock's kicked in, so he's happy, he's running. All very good. Very good. Right, I'll shut it all down and catch you soon. Probably tomorrow. It's getting late, I need food. And then Thursday, we're on Tuesday. Thursday is the transportation's coming to collect the shell, so you'll be seeing that coming up shortly on this video, probably in a few minutes, so 10 minutes or so. There'll be a bit more electrical footage, tech stuff, and then I'll film that shell going away. That's for tomorrow. This clip now finished. Good day for a car show, Dave, today.
So we just steer, get that end across. Go that way, yeah. Come back in this way.
Yeah, you can't strap the wheels on like you just go over the chassis, Dave.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, got hold of this one now.
You're so used to strapping down the tyres.
Yeah, yeah. And they probably just put wheel off.
Yeah, it's not a safe point, that. there we have it. We're off. We're off. We're off. We're off. Let's get this blasted then. No problem. Let's get this blasted. We'll do that. We'll get it blasted, Jim. No worries, Jim. Let's catch it up because I'm going on board now with Dave. We're loaded there, as you can see. Let's go to the soda boys and soda pop ourselves down. Nice day for a soda. The room for one, David.
Sylvester, who had already arranged to be.
Let's go.
It's very good when it gets filled in.
Yeah. I like that board. An operations board.
Thursday Cortina as well.
The right place to put them, isn't it? In here. Lovely. That's it then. Ready for action there. Well, there you go. No car. Alright, so we're out. Chance for a tidy up. Brush up, put the tools away nice and neat, get everything all back ready for when the beast returns from shot blasting. That's looking good in the soda blasters there. So looking forward to that. So while we're waiting for the car to come back, we're straight back onto another electronics module. Just when you thought it was safe, we're back. Hold on, I'll show you what. Straight back onto another module, just when you thought it was safe. We're building another project box here. This is the interior delay module. Now, you can buy off the shelf, and these are really good. They're only about £6 off eBay. These do the job great. So connect that, just 2 wires, and connect that across your switches inside your car. You just put one to ground and the other one to the switch on the door, and then you're off. But it won't do ignition on, lights immediately off. So you could get into your car and start it straight away, and you still have the interior light on. So this doesn't do that, and I wanted that. Also, when you turn the ignition off, I'd like it to kick in as well. So it doesn't have the facilities for that. There's only the 2 wires. It's a good system, this. It dims down as well. It's about 15-second delay. But I wanted to make it with those extra features. So what I did, just built an expansion box for it. A bit of switch gear. A little bit of a time delay circuit there. What happens to get my ignition to trigger it, you've just got to make it so when you turn the ignition off, it sends out 1 trigger pulse equivalent to you opening and closing the door, but it mustn't go into the door switch circuits. You have to isolate using these relays. So what happens is I turn on the ignition, this one here will click in on the main coil, so only not on radio. The second click of the ignition, your coil or your live feed to the rest of the car, wipers and blowers and stuff, that second switch on your key, that comes on and just disconnects the bulb straight out. So the bulb just comes straight through here and it just kills the bulb straight away. So that's easy for ignition on. when you've got ignition off, you need to just give it one pulse. You couldn't just have a relay on your radio side, because it'd always be closed, the light would stay on, so you need to create a momentary blip when you turn that key, and then that blip's gone, triggers the light just once, gives it 15 seconds then, because he thinks you've just opened the door. Because it's just a one-off switch, it'll then switch out. So it's just a blip. Now, an easy way to do it, without using any ICs, without using the 555 timer, just something very simple, keep it easy. Just a transistor here. This is the tech stuff for electronics people now. Switching across, transistor. I'm running a bit overkill, tip 120 there. It could have been any BC 108 or a 2N222, whatever you want to throw in the mix. It's only fine, a little relay. Simplest circuit in the world. Transistor, capacitor, resistor on the base, an RC circuit there. It just holds that relay for about 3 seconds. Okay, so what happens is this. That circuit, the timer relay circuit, is triggered on the main coil switch. The second relay next to it is connected to the radio accessory switch. That hasn't got a timer on it, just turns off straight away. So what happens is this. You put your pulse for the door switch, which is just the ground, which is all the door switch does. When it puts the interior light on, it just switches a ground. So that's the ground. Out of the relay, so I'm going straight through the contacts of the relays out to the lighting bulb. That's straight to the bulb. So all that happens is this. When I put the ignition on, it kills the light with that. When I turn the ignition off, that goes off. But here's the key. That stays on for a few seconds closed, so it keeps them contacts shut. And then continuing to turn the key, and then I knock out this relay, which is the radio, but this relay is wired the opposite way on its contacts, so that when this goes off, it closes its contacts. So now I've closed the contacts of this by turning it off. This one is still on because it's on a timer and it's got its contacts closed. So you've now created a circuit through the two relays, which will only last as long as this relay timer cuts off. So you complete the circuit, it then fires the light. Then the RC circuit trips out the relay. There's no more feed to the light. It runs its 15 seconds and end off, and that creates ignition on, off, 15-second delay. Ignition on, kill the light, and that's it. As easy as that. I just thought that's an add. It costs nothing because I raided all these bits off old circuit boards, so I've managed to do it for now. Bit of time to do it, but it was easy enough. Fits in there into the box. Interior light delay module also goes inside there rather than have it hanging around the dash, so that gives me a complete working module. All I've got to do, I'm going to fit a telltale light on it so I know it's running. That'll go through there, close the lid. Now bear in mind this runs LED lights. If you're running LED lights in your car and your interior lights, which a lot of people do, and you're using the interior light delay, for this model anyway, and it may be different with other models, but this model, this dim down model, it's not designed to run LED lights. So if I put a festoon bulb in, let's say let's show you what you might fit. You might easily fit this bulb here. On a Cortina, it's of course a bayonet bulb, but you might be fitting one of those LEDs. They're great, so do use them because they're fantastic. But this won't work with it. It has a little bit of trickle current, which these can run off just 1.2 volts, and they'll fire up very dimly, albeit, but they do come on. And this has a little bit of trickle through it, which it needs to get rid of. It's just, I don't know what's inside here, by the way, but I noticed that my LED lights are dim. They come on bright with this and they start working. The system kicks in, but it's always got a little bit of light in the LED, and also the loading on the LEDs isn't enough to trigger this little unit to start timing. It's designed to have a load across it. So by putting in this dummy bulb, we're making a dummy load. This is just a normal dashboard bulb, so that once that goes in, it makes this fire up. The relays, the LEDs just piggyback on the back of this. So also what happens is then that kills that voltage that's coming out of here and stops the LED from glowing. So if you fit one of them and you've got LEDs, all you've got to do is somewhere in your lighting circuit fit a bulb, or you could put a resistor in there. Probably a 10 ohm resistor would do it. 10, 20 ohm resistor. Watch you don't get the resistor doesn't get hot though, so I'll have to do the maths on the 20 ohm. Don't take my word for the resistor. Put a dummy load in and away you go. That's it, so that's all I have to do. I'm going to drill a hole, mount that bulb, put the lid on, test it. Okay, super, well done. Some grommets there for the cables to come out nicely. The warning light on there, and we've just put some hot melt on them relays, stop them rattling about. Bit of vibration proof. Module delay just fits in nicely. We can take that out of the pack if we wanted to. Lid on, and we're good to go there. It's all tested and running. I'll show you that when it's wired into the car later, but that's interior light delay, the ignition override, and ignition off system. All done. Nice and neat, real simple as well, very simple. Cheers, so get on to something else next. Right, just doing the loom wrap now, as you can see. It's all gone very peaceful. Nice peaceful summer's evening on the veranda. Simon. So we wrap that there. There's a loom. Box complete. Multi-plug. So we can pull out into the loom. Off we go. That is one completed delay, interior light delay unit. I've written down the colour codes for the lights here and how to wire it in. There's 6 wires to wire in. Ground, positive 12, ignition, ACC, and door switches. That's it. Well done. Alright, let's just get these panels now across to the solder and let's go and pick the shell up. So we didn't want to take these with the shell, there was no room, so some nice panels on there which were supplied with the project, and a couple of doors. So let's take this little run first, see how he gets on with those. Let's go and see Dave now. We know where we're at for all your bits. He's
Definitely into the worst types of.
Let's go to the Eurozone debating office. Eurozone debating office.
Say that our GDP
and we're going to hire
come this way.
No, just keep going, it's fine. I know the way.
Straight up.
Right at the roundabout. Ignore that. It's rubbish.
So it's always come this way, now it's telling you to go back.
No, ignore it. I can get you up St Helens right on the roundabout.
300 yards. Go right.
Oh, we're getting excited to see how this shell's going to look. Come on, Jim, let's see if they've done a good job. We know you're watching. We know you're casting it to your big screen telly. I need to just get the name of this place as well. Don't know what it's called yet.
Yards. Have reached your destination. Have reached your destination.
Next one.
Oh, isn't that last time? We might have to go that last.
Pick a poppy. Use GW soda blasting. Here we are, just picking up from blasters. An etch prime on there, just to keep the rust at bay while we do the rest of the prep work. So we're going to get this onto the truck. And underneath, we believe, it's looking really nice too. Everything off, just back to how it should be, ready for our seam seal. We'll have a closer look in the unit. That's what we wanted.
He's 30-40 yards from goal. He's got a nice drop of the shoulder on him. That's what he did there. He stole the dummy to the oncoming defender, shifted it onto his left foot. The strike was from about 20 yards. The deflection took a lot of the pace off, but Fabianski still had to react, Ali, just to be sure and knock it over. Shimali winning his 52nd cap for Switzerland this afternoon.
Is that a surfboard?
Former Bolton player 9 years ago.
Is it to clean out guns?
I think it's putting out the oil lamps.
Oh yeah, it could be, yeah.
Or cameras in the truck.
Yeah, it could be. Yes, you might be right. Yeah. There's the bar. It's brilliant. There's a little bar. West here. Service with a smile. Service with a smile at Taft's. We'll get another Cortina on the board. Buenos días, son. Arriba. Hay mucha sol hoy, no? Our Mexican Welshman is going to roll us up. That's a bit of a combo, that, Taft. Mexican Welsh. I like it.
It'd be like a cross between an Alsatian and a Jack Russell, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Now we need to do a Welsh Mexican meal. So we've got tacos and lamb tacos. Lamb tacos. Lamb tacos.
Lamb taco.
Could be a new dish. Whole new business. Whisk it away, boys. Take it away. And all back home for a little bit of minor cosmetic work. So let's unpack and do some minor touches up and then get the seam sealer on and a few other things. So we've got some welds to grind down here, a bit of tidying up that you can see clearly now all the paint's off. So some welds to take off there, a little bit of skimming to go in where each plug weld's drilled down. We go round, have a little look round, we see it's revealed a hole in the boot there which was hidden. That must have had fill in it. We fixed them, they're quite easy to fix. Other than that, nothing, no other horrors have been revealed that I can see. Just a question of tidying up everything. Let's see if they've got it inside here. Yes, they have. So that's great. So we go round, but it's a nice finish. I like how it comes. Someone's filled over some alarm switches here, or extra door switches, see. They'll have to be migged up. Again, in that pillar there, I didn't spot those. They're covered in, there's a lot of paint on that. So anyway, there we have it. It's ready for me to do some cosmetic work. But I like the finish, it's nice. Everything looks good now. So we shall carry on doing a little bit. First thing I'll be doing is fixing some of the holes that I've found, and then we'll be doing seam sealing and just tidying up welds. Okay, so I'll get on with that next week. So I just wanted to get it in. This is a Saturday today on the 25th of June 2016. So we're going to get on and do that. Look, I've fitted switches, extra switches, but no, really pleased with the job there from the shop blasting guys. We thank you for that. Let's get on and let's get it stuck in. There's some tidying up to do. Get these bad boys out. If you want to build yourself a jig, look how it's done. It's just done with that box section there. Then another piece of box section going across. Then you got your little casters just spot welded on there. And then I put a stub on it on top to put wheelbarrow wheels on, so you can go casters, lift it up a little bit more and drop on your wheelbarrow wheel. You saw that being used there, and just a bolt straight through the back of the chassis leg, keep your run parallel, and then two bits of bar just slot in to the front jacking points, and that's your little cradle. Works out very well because you can go cross country with a wheelbarrow wheel, so you can go in your paint shop, your workshop, on your casters and manoeuvre your shell however you want. So that works good. So we're looking at the underside now as well. Let me get that dolly off and we'll have a look at the underside. Okay, so we'll walk through just to see how clean it's come up, so we can see what we got to do. Right, I'll start by just fixing up some of those small holes in the pillars where those switches were, and then a couple of repair pieces that just need finishing off. Then we can start with our I'll do another quick prime. There's a dent there we need to attend to. That's always been on the car. We'll have to attend to that. We'll try and pull that out, and then we'll skim over what we can't get rid of. A couple more little indentations there, if you see on that chassis run. These show up now, it's clean. So we'll just feel along these, and we'll fill if we have to. That's where it's just careless people have been jacking it up in its life, which isn't bad considering, 40 plus years. So we'll just get them, but these legs are nice too. All around here is really solid. It's a cracking shell. Our inner panel all cleaned up now, got rid of that pitting. And no damage has been revealed on that since it's had its blast. Pleased about that. Some nice seam sealing will help around these areas. So a few little holes that have appeared since the blasting where it's had further filler hiding some bits, but nothing major. It's all pretty much easy work. Just looking around, see if there's anything. Everything's cleaned up. That's come up nice. The underside of there, that was messy, but we did spend a lot of time cleaning that up to get it looking factory. You see how we finished that plate that was all buckled under there. That come up good. Some sand to blast out of the holes. We'll get the compressed air line on. There's a lot of this. It's glass, actually a glass bead, not sand. It's actually soda or glass bead finish. But I'm pleased. So I'm going to leave that for today. I just wanted to get some footage down before I finished off on this Saturday afternoon. Hope you like the footage so far. We might call it a day for this part episode. I don't know if it's 18 or 19, whatever it is. I hope you've enjoyed the show, and don't forget the Swampy model is now out. We'll do you a quick clip on the computer towards the end of this film. Swampy model pre-ordering sold, so you've got to go for the shops. It's sold out on the pre-orders. It's a good way to finish Swampy's season, also Swampy's last season, because this car will be taking over for next season, so we'll get out and do some shows in this one when it's done. But we're caught up with where Swampy was when he was, if you look back on the old videos, we're having Gravitex in the front. We're back at that level here. Probably about neck and neck now with where Swampy was. We are 10 months into this project, so it's not bad to get to see it in 10 months time, including the wiring harness build. Engines next, axle. Interior I've got plans for. I've got the retrimmers already booked up, ready for the ruby trim. So there we have it for now. I'm going to call it a day. We hope you like it. So it's over and out from here. A mixture of techie, a mixture of car stuff. We hope you like the little mix there. We throw some adverts at the beginning for you, and a little trip down to the Cortina show. All in all, that was a fun packed film for you. Hope you enjoyed it, and it's better than watching telly. So we'll catch you soon. The next part, we'll see some nice work going on underneath here, and you'll be glad to know, non-tech fans, that all the electronic stuff is pretty much, the intense stuff's pretty much finished. There's only a few little systems to do, and that's been quite a mind burn out as well. So thanks again, and we'll catch you soon. It's over and out. Fade out. We'll see you soon. Goodbye. Join us now on board Swampy for a bit of more fun for episode 18. I hope you enjoyed episode 18 there. We're en route south now to the annual Cortina gathering day. The Simmons Yacht, the Monmouth Showground. Each year all the Cortinas pile down there and they meet up to have a great 2-day show. It's mainly on the Sunday, but there's a ride out on the Saturday as well. We'll be covering some of that on the film, so welcome some fantastic weather and a nice leisurely drive down the A49, just at Whitchurch. Now we're making good progress. We've got a Mark II Cortina convertible Crayford behind, and a new classic, a Mondeo. So just heading off and doing it good. We know Jim's been drinking, he's already started drinking early, so we'll catch up with all the guys down there soon. For those who can't make it to the show, and everyone abroad and anyone who can't get down to this superb Cortina show, we hope that this footage will give you a little taster of what it's all about. So we'll keep driving now, and we'll keep updating you on the way as we always do. You know that's what's going to happen. Every few minutes a new location will pop up. We'll see how it's going. Stop off for some food, take it easy. This is the Cheshire countryside. Rolling hills and lush green fields. A couple of cows over there looking like, I saw some people on a bike. There's a man on a bike there, hello. Looking a bit like cattle as we look down from the helicopter there. Superb. Clips coming up. If this wagon wasn't in the way, we'd be giving a little bit more into these lovely corners. You know Swampy's made for that. But we've got the wagon in the way at the moment. We'll see. Let's see if we can check him out and see what we can do. All of a sudden you're in the the Welsh hills and all those troubles, well, melt away as we go into the open countryside now. I see hills in the distance, glades and greens, fields and trees. Feel all those stresses and troubles melt away.
Now Steve Harrington feels so real.
Oh, Jim's feeling so real, boy. The Newtster there, and the Nogster. The Newtster and the Nogster. They're big fans of the channel. We've got some good support on YouTube now. We thank you for that. As usual, we appreciate everybody's comments. I hope we're providing some widescreen entertainment on those Friday and Saturday nights. That shell rolling out there, you saw. A bit more electronic, sorry about that. We had to show you the new systems. And we're making good progress, we're doing really well. Roads are clear, conditions are good. We're enjoying the drive, great fun. Opening up on these roads is great fun. We love it. Hill coming up, hill coming up. Good to go. Medium right turn. Not too bad. Not too bad. We're holding on, we're alright, we're alright. I've got to slow down now. Getting close, we're getting close. It's 7 miles to go. We'll be drawing the on-road filming to an end shortly. You'll be seeing us in the campsite next, on the Showground as well. That's the campsite and Showground. So end of the filming for the on the road. We're coming up on our destination in 11 minutes time. See you up there. Beautiful views across the Wye Valley coming up for you. It's fantastic June, the sunshine there. A rare occasion when we get a nice flaming June. So there's the valley in front of us. The show's just nestled in there. Just look at that. That's what motoring is all about. The open road, reliable motoring in your Mk3. That's what it's all. A little stop for a little sleep as we now head to the campsite to find some interesting faces. Let's go and see who's sleeping, who's still got a hangover.
Otherwise I'm going to fall asleep, not know where I am.
He watched one of my videos and fell asleep. We're going to go downtown and check him out.
I think I should fall asleep on it, mate. Yeah.
Yellow is the colour.
Bit
Yellow
bright, isn't it, mate?
is the colour.
It's a bit bright. Do you think it's a bit bright?
We found everybody. So we've got here all right. Little Newt's on scene, first on scene. He's checking things out, making sure everything's polished and correct.
It's got to be,
This is
one cloth polish.
so 2006, Jim. What do you reckon? We're shaping up to a good show. 2016. Oops. I lost 10 years there.
Yeah, when?
2016, Jim.
2016. Sounds good, mate.
What do you reckon? Guaranteed good weather. Don't get better than that. English countryside. Don't come much better than this, Jim.
We're going to be getting some of the trip on film.
We've got the road trip coming up now for everyone in YouTube land. Everyone who couldn't make it to the show, we're going to try and Jim's going to film as well because he's good on the camera. It's always me behind the lens. So polishing the cars, everybody, all ready. We're going to line up and Tony Tibbs' road show is going to start. Tony organises the road trip out before the main event. So we like to get all our cars nice and clean.
Especially by Marky Mark, of course.
Especially assisted by Marky Mark. 71BB Marky Mark 3. Seen a bit. Look at this beauty, the welder here. Jammer we call him, Jammer 909. And we've got EU with the Enox. We've got Wawa over there, there's Wawa 73. Nice red one there coming in on the Mark 5. Get the indicators right, guys, we haven't been getting any trouble. Home base is over there. One of the home camps, that's the outlaw camp. And we've got a few more camps dotted around. We'll be taking to see those people shortly. Oh, Reela! Left-handed this time. It's Mark, another Mark. Here he is. He's on the latest video. Mark, and more Mark. We're just filming the convoy leaving, boys.
We're off in a minute as well. We're going the opposite way.
Yes. Okay. What a star!
I've done my best.
Look what we got! The man's the man! A big there, you can see that, of course, that's obviously Daytona yellow. He's on board with his assistant there, Mr. Bullet himself. So these are the people in the club and the forums, and everyone who's got a Cortina tries to get down to this show. So we're in Convoy. Difficult to stay in formation. We're doing the best we can, and we're just a day trip out to a castle before the main event tomorrow on the Sunday. So we're on the 4th of June. We're doing nice. Temperature's about 23 degrees. Overcast but very sticky and close and humid with the sun coming through. Very hot when it does, and guaranteed good weather. So that makes all the difference as well. So country roads now, nice drive out, fresh cut grass and village fates, dancing around the maypole. Okay, dancing around Jim's, not Jim's maypole, around the maypole there, not Jim's pole. But,
prices were already done. 300 miles before it even hits the red point. So when you get it to 8 miles, it's only roll over. The engine might have been 1% which sort of right, you know. The way the Jeep cars out, phenomenal. Not drop. There's no nothing there. That's when a van didn't go. No. 20,000 mile or 2 years, whichever comes first. Oh
yeah. Found anything, Age?
Not a lot, nothing yet, I'm afraid.
Nothing
yet.
He's always had nice stuff, hasn't he? Yeah.
He's got some
He's
really
had it for years,
yeah, he's got some really
He's always been if you need it.
So we are Raglan Castle. How's it going, Pete?
Just doing the Queen's Wave.
Yeah? Chilling?
We are not amused. Yes, it's nice, yeah, just on the slight incline, about 18-degree incline. Grass is cut 5mm. Not sure what blade he used to cut this. Let's have a look. Titanium edge, nice. Clean cut, very good.
Enjoy the drive down here?
Yeah, it was a good little burst on the motorway. You saw, of course, ladies and gentlemen, the yellow car in front. That's Jim's GT there, and we were having fun filming. Nice little drive out through the village, Hall of Fame and all that.
Yeah, waving to everyone.
Yeah, flashing our lights.
We had pictures taken.
We're like boys with Tonka toys, aren't we? Hey? That's what it's all about. It's just that our toys now are able to drive down the road. In the old days we had to either pull a elastic band or clockwork thing, whatever it was. Put batteries later on, AAAs, AA's, whatever you want. No, it's nice. Yeah, I'm just messing about. I always said once I finished Swampy, I'd just lie on the grass, and now's my time. Bond with the earth. This is called grounding. I'm grounding now.
Do you have to kiss the daisies or?
No. Radioactive.
There's Bullet having a chuckle there, look. You enjoying it?
Chilled.
He's laying down, he's not on the incline, he's there in front of Karen's car. Yeah. You enjoy the drive?
Yeah, it was awesome.
You had the best driver, didn't you?
Yeah, he was alright.
Jim's going to take the camera, or Bullet might be filming, I'll do an overtake and we'll get some Swampy movies.
Yeah.
You know, Swampy likes to be in the media and all.
Yeah. Right.
It's nice, yeah. That's what it's all about. It doesn't get much better than this. Really?
What have we got over there? We've got someone leaving?
Yeah.
Frankie? Frankie?
Frankie.
They're going to the pub.
Are they? What, the bar?
Yes, he was at 3 o'clock. Bullet.
If you come to
I
run into
found I was asking for this. The keys that didn't turn up.
Yeah. I wonder why he didn't come back, because he said he was.
Make you happy, Gary?
Oh yeah.
That's nice. Original stamp on the back there. Better record that number. Baby.
Second, J30CAR. COR, is it? Good Harvey. Well done. We'll get you the plate right next time. Cheers. And first is TAB933Y. Which is one of the XR2s or Super Sports. So, TAB933Y. I can see the car from here.
He's a Cheshire Cat, this one. A Cheshire Cat. A Cheshire Cat. Wow. Look at that, a Cheshire Cat. Very good. Jim, another next year.
2016.
17. into the sunset. There you go. That's it, it's all over. We're heading back. That was the little bit of clip of end of part 18 for year 19, part 19. No, part 18 finished. We've got a couple of wins, we've got a couple of trophies, so we've done all right. We've got Swampy's managed to bag the best Mark 3 there, so we've done good with that one. That's a nice little piece of objet d'art, so we're happy about that one. And we got second in the 1 to 5 club, another piece of objet d'art, so always nice. Swampy ends comes to the end of his season before Ruby takes over, so it's nice to just get these in the cupboard and lock down on those. So we're happy about our win. So we'll see you on the road for a few more clips before as the sun sets, and then we'll catch you on part 19. So over and out from Simmons Yacht, Monmouth. Little bit at the end of the film. We've seen plenty of friends and cars and bits and bobs and had a good time, and some good wins from some other clubs. Tony there in the green Mark 3 with a nice win too. So over and out for now. Maybe a few little clips on the road. Okay.